What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. And I have a question for you guys. Are the Vancouver Canucks about to pull off their biggest trade acquisition of the season? And the season hasn't even started yet? Hell, the offseason has barely even started. The rumors are swirling around Marco Rossi, and if you're wondering whether this young Minnesota Wild center could be the missing piece to Vancouver's future playoff puzzle, you're in the right place. We're breaking down everything you need to know about why the Canucks are reportedly very interested in Rossi, what it would take to get him, whether this move could actually happen as early as by the end of this month. So we're going to dive right into it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss it. And yeah, I am all for this. Obviously, if you've followed along with my channel, you'll know that I'm really high on Marco Rossi, and I really want the Canucks to go out and get him, especially after hearing that, the Wild apparently have him on the trade block and don't want him for some ridiculous reason. They think he's too small and can't perform and won't be able to perform in the playoffs. He didn't perform in the playoffs this past season, or this past playoffs rather, because you put him on the fourth line. That's why he didn't perform. And not to mention, for those of you that aren't familiar with Marco Rossi, he's 23 years old. He's about to hit the prime of his career. Granted, he's only 5'9". He's very small, but the guy can put up points. The guy can put the puck in the net. And that is exactly what the Vancouver Canucks were missing this past season. Their offense was not there, and Marco Rossi will give you offense despite his small stature. So we're going to break it down. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about it. We're going to bring up an article from the Daily Hive written by Rob the Hockey Guy. We're going to go over some of Rossi's stats, and I'm going to give my opinion on Marco Rossi, and we're also going to break down maybe a couple trade scenarios that could involve Marco Rossi and what the Canucks would have to give up. We're also going to talk about whether or not the Canucks should either trade for him or offer sheet him, because it sounds like if the Canucks offer sheet Marco Rossi, the Wild aren't going to match it. But there's also the question of, can the Canucks even offer sheet Marco Rossi due to, the requirements needed to even offer sheet somebody. So we're going to go all over that. So let's go ahead and not waste a single second. Although one thing I do want to say prior to us getting into this, hearing that the Canucks are very interested in Marco Rossi, I got one word to say. Yes, 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 yes. Sorry, that's my little Daniel Bryan, yes, plug. If you guys are a wrestling fan like I am, yes, 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 yes is all I got to say about this, story about the Canucks being very interested in Marco Rossi. That's all I got to say is yes, yes, yes. So, but before we dive into the article, I want to thank my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art. So, Gassy Jack Art produces hockey prints on archival paper and canvas that have been rated to last over 100 years. Their product range features a variety of players from different teams, including the Edmonton Oilers, Montreal Canadiens, Toronto Maple Leafs, Calgary Flames, Colorado Avalanche, and your Vancouver Canucks, as well as more. Now, Gassy Jack Art also has non-hockey related prints as well. So if you're interested in those, go ahead and check them out. Be sure to check it out at GassyJackArt.com. Once again, that is GassyJackArt.com. Right now, you'll probably see, once you go to the website, you'll see that they have a end of season sale going on where you can buy 4 prints for the price of 2. Yeah, you heard me correctly. You can get 4 prints and only pay for, and 2 of them will be free. So basically what you have to do is pick 4 prints, go to the checkout, and you'll see that 2 of them will be free of charge, and you'll get a total of 4 prints. Be sure to do it. It's a great deal. I've already taken advantage of this deal, not once, but twice. I'm currently waiting on my second set. So go ahead, check him out. Jack's got some great artwork. It's absolutely amazing, the detail that he does with these. And as I mentioned at the beginning, they can last you 100 years. So you could look back on it 50 years from now, 60 years from now, 80 years from now, even 100 years from now, and they'd still be in that same condition. Go ahead, check them out, GassyJackArt.com. You're not going to regret it. So let's go ahead and just dive right into this. So let's take a look at the article first, talking about how the Canucks are very interested in acquiring Marco Rossi from Minnesota. As I mentioned earlier, this article is from Rob the Hockey Guy, Rob Williams from the Daily Hive, and it goes as follows. It sounds like the Vancouver Canucks are quite fond of Marco Rossi. The 23-year-old Minnesota Wild center is a player we've wondered about before, as have we on this channel, regarding concerns for the Canucks' search for a center. Coming off a 60-point season, 24 goals, 36 assists, in just his second full year in the NHL, Rossi might not be long for the state of hockey. He's a restricted free agent, but seemed to fall out of favor of the Wild's head coach, John Hynes, and general manager, Bill Guerin. In an interview with Thomas Drance and Jamie Dodd on Sportsnet 650 today, technically yesterday, Minnesota beat writer Michael Russo from The Athletic said he believes Rossi will be moved by the end of the month, and he also thinks the Canucks have interest in him. This is a quote from Russo. I definitely hear from really good sources that Vancouver really likes Marco and is very interested in Marco. Does that mean a trade? Does that mean an offer sheet? One or the other? Who knows? Russo said. We'll see where it goes, but I definitely get the impression that we're going to see him getting a new change of address here by the end of the month. Rossi is due for a raise from his entry-level contract, but Guerin is apparently hesitant to give the 5'9" Austrian what he wants because of his lack of size. This is another quote from Russo. I don't think that Bill Guerin really feels that he can function in the playoffs. Russo said, he's undersized. He doesn't lack courage. He just is undersized. He's as determined as you can be. He's a total pro. If Vancouver gets him, they'd be extremely lucky to get him because he's just going to continue getting better and better just because he is such an absolute professional. Guerin was Jim Rutherford's assistant GM in Pittsburgh for 5 years, so they're certainly not strangers. Perhaps that will grease the wheels for a potential trade. Rossi scored 3 points, 2 goals, 1 assist in 6 playoff games, but didn't appear to have the trust of the coaching staff. He was dropped to the 4th line for the entire series against the Vegas Golden Knights, seeing his average ice time go from 18 minutes and 15 seconds in the regular season to 11 minutes and 8 seconds in the playoffs. He never played more than 12 minutes and 10 seconds in any postseason game. As for how much it could cost to re-sign Rossi, AFP Analytics projects him to command $4.5 million a season on a 2-year deal, or $7.39 million annually on a 7-year contract. So there's the article. I will leave a link to it in the description down below if you guys want to check it out yourselves. But let's look at Rossi's stats. He's a center, as we mentioned, and of course, the Canucks are looking for a second-line center, and you got yourselves a 23-year-old center who is a first-round pick, 9th overall by the Minnesota Wild in 2020. He's a left-handed shot, 5'9", 192 pounds, from Austria, as we mentioned. And here's a little look into him from from 2020 from the NHL Draft Guide. Little, talk about, little bio on him. Has an exceptional sense of spacing both on and off the puck, capable of playing in the most sensitive portions of the offensive zone, and suffering hardly any physical wear for the trouble. If there's an opening, then Rossi is going to find it and ruthlessly exploit it. He's responsible defensively with great off-the-puck positioning and support below the hash marks. So that was from Elite Prospects back in 2020. But looking at his stats, his first season in the NHL is 2021-2022. He technically only played 2 games and didn't get a single point, but he did get 4 penalty. He was a 4 in penalty minutes, and he was also a -1, but that was only a sample size, a very small sample size, with only 2 games played. Going to 2022-2023, he played 19 games and had 1 assist with 8 penalty minutes and a -7. So again, a bit of a bigger sample size. Granted, he was just, getting his skate legs underneath him. He did play 53 games for the Iowa Wild in the AHL, 16 goals, 35 assists, 51 points in 53 games for the Iowa Wild. And then 2023-2024, he played his first full season in the NHL, getting 40 points, 21 goals, 19 assists. He had 47 penalty minutes and was a -4. And then this past season, 2024-2025, once again, played a full 82 games with 60 points, 24 goals, 36 assists, and had 26 penalty minutes and was a +3. Of course, as we mentioned in the playoffs, 6 games, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. Obviously, that is a small sample size for the playoffs, for the NHL playoffs, and this was his first experience in the NHL playoffs. So let's not forget about that either. Especially when it comes to Bill Guerin saying he doesn't think he can be a playoff caliber player. He's only played 6 games in the playoffs. Minnesota, up until this year, never made the playoffs, after he was drafted. So I don't really see that there. But those are his stats. Let's look at his contract. See if I can find it. Here, I'll just go to Puckpedia. All right. So his most recent contract was 3 years, $2.59 million, with a cap hit of 163 per season with the Minnesota Wild. It expired at the end of the 24-25 season, so he is a restricted free agent. So technically, he doesn't have a contract right now. As we mentioned before, he was a first-round pick, 9th overall in 2020. And yeah, he's looking for a new contract. First contract he signed was his ELC that he's just coming off of. So he's not all that expensive, at least currently right now. But obviously we know he's basically looking to get $4.5 million a season on a short-term deal, or 7.39 annually, he's basically looking for a 7x7. And I get that's a lot of money to pay a 23-year-old. But at the same time, he's 23 years old. That contract is going to look like an absolute steal with the cap going up. So that's why I'm all in on, not only acquiring Rossi via trade, but also signing him to that 7x7 contract, because it's going to look like an absolute steal, especially if he puts up the points and is able to put the puck in the net. As we mentioned at the beginning, that is something that the Vancouver Canucks were very sorely lacking this past season. This guy will do it for you. And I understand also that, a lot of people have reserves about Petey. And, obviously with Rossi being a center, you probably wouldn't play with Petey all that much, except for maybe on the power play. But just imagine that. Petey and Rossi on the power play. Now, and then maybe, I don't know, DeBrusque and maybe even Hedl. I think that'd be a pretty darn good power play. But we'll see what the power play looks like if they actually do acquire Marco Rossi. But I did want to touch on this before we get into potential trade scenarios. Is a lot of people are saying, on the whole, he's too small, and a lot of people are also, I've seen, talking about, the Canucks need more size, which, yes, you're very correct on that. They do need more size, but I was also looking at, crud, where did it go? I just want to had it up. Oh, I must have lost it, but it's okay. I can get it back. There we go. I'm just going to look at the Canucks roster. Now, as I mentioned, a lot of people are concerned about the size of Rossi and also the size of the Canucks, that they're not big enough. But looking at the forwards for the Vancouver Canucks right now, and in particular, centers. Oh, come on, just waiting for it to load. There we go. So when it comes to centers, right now, our tallest, or at least biggest size-wise for centers, are Filipino and Dakota Joshua, who are both at 6'3". Our smallest center is, well, technically Ty Mueller, but he's with Abby, but he's at 5'11". And then you have Teddy Bluger at 6 foot, Kiefer Sherwood at 6 foot, who's listed as a center/winger. You have Petey, who's at 6'2". And then, of course, you have, if you're talking about like wingers, you have Garland at 5'8", Höglander at 5'9", Drew O'Connor at 6'4", Jake DeBrusque at 6'1". And yeah, that's it for the forwards. But when, with people talking about, Canucks need more size, it's not like they have what, 1, 2, 3, if you count Mueller. They technically only have 2 guys who are under 6 feet tall. So I don't really understand the whole Canucks need more size thing. At the same time, I also get it. I understand you guys want guys like Zadorov who are like 6'4", 6'5". You want big guys on the wing, and I completely understand that. But yes, go out and get yourself some big guys who are wingers, big bulky guys who are wingers, and you can still get a guy like Rossi who can put the puck in the net, something, as I keep hammering down, the Canucks could not do this past season. So if it means getting a guy who's 5'9" who can put the puck in the net, as opposed to a guy who's 6'4", 6'5", and is not very skilled when it comes to, scoring or like puck skills or offense, I'm going with the 5'9" guy every single time. So, but that's just my opinion on that. So, anyway, where was I? Okay, let's talk trade scenarios now. Now, one I did see. Let me just bring it up here. Must have lost that too. But we're gonna go on to the Canucks subreddit as they talk about this. Not necessarily this article, but they talk about the Thomas Trance and the Sportsnet 650, Jamie Dodd, and talking about on Canucks Talk. Just looking at some of the comments, you can see some that say, agreed, $7 million is a steal. Besser rejected $8 million. If we can get the better, younger player at $7 million, why say no? Size is not an issue if he is capable of 60 plus points. And I completely agree with it. That's exactly what I'm saying. And what one person says past underscore zebra 1155 says, I was very happy to hear this because I think Guerin is dead wrong about Rossi. He has that MCL or MSL compete level where he can succeed despite his size. I watched him a decent amount this season. He was more than willing to consistently go to the net front. That's where most of his goals came from. Getting Rossi is the number one item on my offseason wish list. Signing Marner, which is less realistic, is up there as well. But Rossi would fix the biggest issue with our roster for the better part of a decade. And if we sign him at his rumored ask of 7x7, I think we do it at a steal of a price for a 23-year-old 60.2C with lots of room for improvement yet. And again, that hits the nail right on the head. This is exactly why I'm so huge on Marco Rossi. One person says, Bona Garage 123. I've never been a size matter type of guy, but even I can admit our top six is severely undersized, which is fair. I think it was Friedman that said on Donnie and Dolly the other day that, I'm paraphrasing, good teams have a good mix of size and skill in their top six, like Edmonton, Florida, Capitals, etc. Teams with only skill in their top six struggle in the playoffs, like Leafs, Devils, and Wild. They can add some skillful but big forwards, ahem, Sam Bennett, and that would be huge. But right now, our top six is looking pretty small. That's, again, bringing up the whole size thing. If you really think about it, or let me just say, at least to me, 6 foot is not small because I myself am small. So we got Mupperton. In an ideal situation, the Canucks wouldn't want Rossi because they already lack size in their top six, but this situation is far from ideal. Limited draft capital, limited trade assets, not a ton of cap space. Beggars can't be choosers in trying to upgrade the team. If the price is right, I'm fine with it. Once again, metric hustle, make it happen. We need skill regardless of size. We need to score. Hughes, PD, and Rossi in overtime. Who doesn't want to see that? I most certainly want to see that. That is something, having Hughes, PD, and Rossi in 3-on-3 overtime. Oof. Jealous Art 1118. I'm not worried about a lack of size on Rossi. The guy can play. He scored at every level. He's been handled poorly in Minnesota. He's got lots of upside. Also, let's remember, this is a franchise that is looking at barely squeaking into the playoffs as its high water mark, as long as Aquilini refuses to do a proper rebuild. Adding a guy who can score in the regular season but has warts and questionable utility in a playoff setting fits that strategy just fine. This is not a cup contender, and it's never going to be. The Canucks are being run this way for a reason. Anything to get those 2 home playoff dates. It's a good point. And then I believe that's Nazi 2020. The irony is that if they build a contender, ownership would have more than 2 home playoff dates. Absolutely right there. I really like this. From the Danu. Rossi is a great player, but to be honest, I'm not quite sure he's the 2C we need. Guy is 5'9", 182, but that's likely being generous. Team always adds a couple inches to players' heights. There's no way Garland is 5'10". In saying that, do we think we can compete long-term with PD, Rossi, and Hedel/Suter as your top 3Cs? Can that compete with McDavid and Draisaitl? I'm a huge PD believer, but that's just extremely soft down the middle. Can make up for it if you have a bunch of huge, big-bodied wingers, but we don't have that either. At the end of the day, team also just needs to get more high-end talent. So if he's cheap relative to his value, I'm down. But Rossi is not a guy I would break the bank for. I have to disagree with that, at least with breaking the bank, especially for a guy who's 23 years old. Metric hustle, again, if Canucks want to turn this team around ASAP, size is a luxury. We desperately need skill up front, and Rossi would instantly be our best forward until PD turns it around. Rossi is the go-to guy. I see him having a Holloway breakout season next year, around the same age. Honestly, the rumored bully contract is something I would do for him. I would as well. Here's a trade scenario. The 15th overall pick and 15th overall pick and Karamaki for Rossi and a later pick. Honestly, I'd probably do that. I'd do that. Absolutely. From S. McFarland would definitely do that. I do think if we're going to trade for Rossi, we're probably going to have to use our first round pick, as that would probably entice Minnesota. And you would probably have to give a prospect up for Rossi. And I think Lekramaki is that prospect that you'd be willing to part ways with to get a guy like Rossi. And yeah, that's going to do it for the Reddit. You guys can check that out if you guys want. But let's get into some more trade scenarios. And that was one of them, the 15th overall pick, and Lekramaki for Rossi and a later pick. You could also trade one of your young D-men. That might entice the Minnesota Wild. Somebody like Willander, you could package him with the first round pick and acquire Marco Rossi. You could also package the first round pick with maybe DPD. Just trying to list off some of the younger defensemen for Rossi. Although I'm more wanting to keep DPD. I do also think that Willander might have a little bit more higher trade value than DPD currently. You could also do Mancini and the first overall pick for Rossi, although I would most certainly like to keep Mancini if it were up to me. But so yeah, there's three right there. You had 15th overall pick and Lekramaki for Rossi. You had 15th overall pick and Willander for Rossi. And 15th overall pick and possibly DPD. So there's 4 actually. And then 15th overall pick and possibly Mancini for Rossi. So there's 4. I think if you're going to trade for Marco Rossi, you got to give up that 15th overall pick. We're already under the impression that the Canucks are likely to trade it to get their top 6 center. But I want to know from you guys, what do you guys think about this article, this news that's come out that the Canucks are very interested in Marco Rossi? And are you like me, where you're all like, yes, 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 go out and trade for Marco Rossi, or maybe even offer sheet him if they can? By the way, if you guys, I did a video a little while ago talking about, whether or not the Canucks should trade for Rossi or offer sheet him. You guys can check that out right up here. Go ahead and check that out. We talk about it. But this is slightly, it says video talking about the fact that the Canucks are very interested in Rossi, which makes me happy because this is the guy I want. The guy can put the puck in the net. He gives you offense. Sure, he's a little on the short side, but I'd rather have offense. I want offense. That's something this team effing needs, and this guy will bring it. And then obviously go out and get yourself another winger that has some size to him, and boom, done. So at least that's how I feel. Let me know what you guys feel. Drop some comments in the comment section down below. Do you guys agree with me that they should go after Rossi and they should actually, pursue this, get it done, possibly as early as by the end of this month? Could Marco Rossi be a Vancouver Canuck? And I'm going to go on the record and tell you right now, if the Canucks do acquire Marco Rossi, I will be one of the first to go out and get myself a Marco Rossi Canucks jersey. You heard it here first. I will absolutely do that. So, again, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this. And as always, if you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks, on all your Canucks content, whether that's Vancouver Canucks or the Abbotsford Canucks, go ahead and hit that like button, or rather smash the subscribe button, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. You can find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, just search The Line Change. You can find us on Instagram at The Line Change. You can find us on X at Line Change Van. You can find us on TikTok at the.line.change.po. Feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms, as well as interact with us. If you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Once again, feel free to give us a follow on Spotify, as well as rate and review us. But that's going to do it for this video. We're at over 30 minutes long. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about this topic in particular. And yeah, I really hope the Canucks go out and acquire Marco Rossi and bring him to Vancouver, get some skill in the top six, get some scoring, and actually get some darn offense. So once again, let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, go Canucks go. And I'll see you guys in the next video.